So without further ado, I'd like to get us started and introduce you to Joseph Geleta. Joe Geleta currently serves as the Director of Emergency Management for the New Jersey Department of Human Services. He is directly responsible for emergency management activities associated with the department's 7 facilities and 10,000 employees. He serves as the state of New Jersey's mass care lead during disaster response operations. That includes sheltering, feeding, reunification, and distribution of emergency supplies. Joe is retired from the New Jersey State Police after 30 years of service and was leading New Jersey's Hurricane Sandy recovery effort along with our FEMA colleagues. Upon his retirement, he served as the executive director of the NJ211 partnership. NJ211 is a statewide help and referral call center for those needing health or human service needs. Simply dial 211 or visit www.nj211.org to get connected. So at this point, I am going to turn it over to Joe, who will begin the presentation. Thank you again for being here, Joe.
Thank you, Ashley. And I want to thank the ARC of New Jersey and the New Jersey Self-Advocacy Project for inviting me to talk to you. As Ashley said, a very timely topic, disaster preparedness. As Ashley mentioned, I'm working for the New Jersey Department of Human Services, their Office of Emergency Management, and we work in coordination with the state police and many different partners in disaster preparedness and response operations. So I put together a presentation. I'm going to share my screen so we could all see it. Okay, great. So that's my contact information. I'll have additional contact information at the conclusion of this webinar as well. But we're going to start our presentation by going over a little simple things that we're working on in New Jersey related to disaster preparedness. So in New Jersey, the state police coordinates emergency management, and Colonel Pat Callahan, he's the superintendent of the state police. He serves as the state director of emergency management. So he's responsible for crafting the state's emergency operations plan. It's an all hazards plan encompassing a number of different topics, all phases of emergency management, whether it's mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery. But he's really responsible for crafting that state emergency operations plan with many different partners. We always try to recognize a whole community approach, getting everyone involved in disaster preparedness, response, recovery, and mitigation measures, because that's very important when we talk about putting our plans together. Now, the state's emergency operations plan is broken up into 15 distinct sections. These are the sections here, rating from transportation, number 1, all the way to external communications, which is 15. Our department, the Department of Human Services, is responsible for the number 6 portion of the state emergency operation plan, which is called Emergency Support Function number 6. So we're responsible for putting together the plan that deals with mass care and emergency assistance. So when we talk about dealing with mass care and emergency assistance, we're responsible for coordinating sheltering, feeding, distribution of emergency supplies, and family reunification during a disaster, all falling under the purview of our Commissioner, Sarah Edelman, and our Department of Human Services. So we also are responsible for the development of a family assistance center if that is needed, repatriation efforts if we have to repatriate citizens into the United States, disaster housing, and more importantly, disability access and functional needs, DAFN. We work in coordination with many members of our department, whether it's the Division of Disability Services, the Division of Developmental Disabilities, our Commission for the Blind and Visually Impaired, and our Division for Deaf and Hard of Hearing. We work very closely with all our partners in our department as well to make sure we craft our disabilities access and functional needs plan. It's sound and truly viable to support the most in our state. This formula I put down there, 4 C's plus 4 P's equals relationships, really stems from a couple different partners we work with. New Jersey VOAD, Voluntary Organizations Active in Disasters, uses a motto known as the 4 C's: communication, collaboration, cooperation, and coordination. So we try to take those 4 C's and add in the 4 P's: planning, preparedness, partnerships, and practice, and you build relationships. So it's not so much that our department really handles everything. We rely on many different relationships to help us out, not only with state agencies, but also our county partners, our township partners, the nonprofits, volunteer groups, community-based groups, the faith-based community, and of course, the private sector. Although the Department of Human Services manages mass care in the state of New Jersey, these relationships we have built and fostered are critical to support our efforts in a mass care operation. I can't stress that enough, how important the relationships we foster are in our response in any type of disaster. Our mass care operation has a lot of logistics that's involved. We have logistical operations set up throughout the state that we can deploy if needed to any of our county partners that call out for assistance during a disaster, whether it's through trailers. We have showering trailers that are ADA compliant, a whole host of supplies that we have staged throughout the state that we can deploy if needed during a serious crisis that confronts our state. So a logistical operation has to be sound, and our operation with the Department of Human Services to support mass care, we believe, has been built up and is really ready to go if needed in a crisis. But we're really talking about what you can do. What is an emergency to you? How can you be prepared? And everyone has different ideas of what an emergency is. For one person, it might be one thing, another person, it might be another thing. But it also stems from where you're located. Are you located in an area that is prone to flooding? That's prone to be impacted when a hurricane hits by coastal flooding. But there's also other types of emergencies that can happen at any time. They could be natural occurring, purposeful, technical, health related, or others that are pretty much close to where you reside. You may be living next to a train track that could have a derailment with chemical hazardous materials. You could be close to an airport that may have an airline crash in your area. Interstate highway that again could have a hazardous material, a tanker truck overturned. So you should be cognizant of the fact of where you reside and what types of disasters could impact you. If you're in a flood zone, are you aware of when those when the rivers start rising, the floods, are you prepared to take action if needed? So what's an emergency to you? Now's a chance to start thinking about that in the area you reside in. What would an emergency, how would it impact you? Most of the emergencies that confront our state, we usually have a loss of power. So if you have a loss of power, are you able to get by on your own? Do you have a generator? Do you have some other type of device that you can still run power in your home? It's going to impact your heating and your cooling. You might not be able to cook if you lose power. You may not have access to your personal care assistant. If roads are impassable, as they were with Sandy and some other disasters we were impacted with, your personal care assistant may not be able to get to you. Your transportation that you rely upon may be impacted as well. Some of the transportation services, whether it's Access Link through New Jersey Transit or some of the other services that are out there, might not be able to get to you. So are you prepared to deal with that if the emergency happens, the disaster happens, and these are some of the impacts that you may have to deal with? Do you have cash on hand to take care of things that you may need to because you can't get to the bank? So just think about these things, some of the impacts that may confront you when a disaster hits. It's important that we prepare now in these quote unquote blue sky days. when you have the time to put together a plan, put together a disaster supply kit, and stay informed. I'm going to provide you some links and some websites that you should stay connected to, so you have access to a lot of different resources to help you with putting a plan together, putting a disaster supply kit together, and staying connected and informed. So pretty much now's the time to plan. As I mentioned early on, we're responsible for the state emergency operations plan. It's very complex and detailed, but it doesn't have to be that detailed for you to put together a family disaster preparedness plan. It could be very simple. There's many templates online that when I give the links at the end of this presentation that you can go to and just fill in the blanks. It's very easy to do, but planning is so critical. We take it at the level of government, but we want to really make sure you at the nucleus of your family are prepared and safe. So what are your needs? What do you need when a disaster happens and you're impacted, when you lose transportation, power, your personal care assistant can't get to you? Are you prepared, and do you have access to get others to help you, whether it's your family, your friends, other support agencies that can help you out? Now's the time to think about that and craft that in your plan, so you're ready to go if impacted by a disaster. Register Ready is out there. I'll give the link to that later on, where you could register with Register Ready and get connected to your local emergency management agency or your county emergency management agency. That's very important as well, to stay connected so they know that you have special needs that they may need to focus on and help you out if an evacuation is ordered or something like that. So take the time to look at that, and I'll give that at the end of the presentation. It's really incumbent upon you, when you craft this plan, to build your own personal support network to help you out during a disaster. So in planning, really, what is your daily living like? Where do you need to go? Do you have special dietary needs that you have to attend to? Special medical needs. Maybe you need certain medicines that have to go with you if you're told to evacuate. You might have access, or you might always need a personal care assistant to take care of you. What happens if the personal care assistant can't get to you because of roads being impassable, or they can't get through because of flooding? So just think about those things when you put together your plan. Maybe you have a communication dependent device. Is it charged? Do you have power? Do you have batteries to support that device? Things to think about before a disaster happens is critical. Do you require durable medical equipment? Do you have a powered wheelchair? Does it have batteries? Do you have additional charging implements to make sure it's workable? Do you have other special equipment you may need that have to go with you if you're told to evacuate? So now is the time to think about that before the disaster is looming, or the hurricane is coming up the coast to hit New Jersey. So think about that. Do you have enough water on hand to get by for a period of at least 3 days? Do you have meals, or the ability to prepare meals? If you can't cook because power is out, the gas is out, do you have some other type of shelf-stable meals to take care of you for a period of time? So things to think about to put this together in your plan. For planning, you may be told to shelter in place. If you are told to shelter in place, like I said, do you have the necessary supplies to shelter in place? If you're told to evacuate, have you put together a go kit that you could simply grab with all your necessary supplies to go wherever you're told to go? Do you have the supplies at home? If there's a power outage and you can't do heating or cooling, do you have some type of device to help you do that, whether it's a generator or some other type of device to get by with providing heat to your home or cooling to your home? If you're told to evacuate, how are you going to evacuate? Do you have the necessary means through family, friends, through another support agency to help you with evacuation? If you're registered with Register Ready, the local emergency management and county emergency management will understand the needs specific to you if you have to evacuate, and they'll try to get someone to help you to evacuate from your area. So just think about these things pre-planning, pre-disaster. Your family, friends, other agencies you utilize, are they available to assist you? And bring a go kit with needed items. And we're going to talk about that now. What should be in your go kit or your disaster supply kit? It really should be a personal disaster supply kit. What things do you need to support yourself if a disaster may confront you? What's needed to support your specific disability? Start now in putting this disaster supply kit together. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It could just provide you the basics that you need to get by for a period of at least 3 days, because normally when a disaster happens, a government isn't going to come running in to help you. It's really incumbent upon you to be able to function for at least 3 days. I'd like to go and say 5 days sometime, because that's how long it's going to take sometimes for a government entity to come and be able to get to you to help you out. So just think about putting together this disaster supply kit now. You could do it piecemeal. Take your time, use local retailers, online stores, the big box stores, the dollar stores, to buy the specific items you need to help you out. At the end of this presentation, I'll put together a nice little list of what should be in your disaster supply kit, but really think about what you need, not other people, but what do you need for your specific disability to help you when you put together that disaster supply kit. And it really should be enough to allow for at least 3 days. How much water do you have for 3 days? They usually say 1 gallon per person per day. So just think about that. You store the water, you store the necessary shelf-stable meals to get by, and the other types of things that you specifically need to put together in that disaster supply kit. So this is just a simple schematic that I got offline. I'm going to put together a document that can be shared later on with those that registered for this webinar to give you some guidance, a little check off list of what you do and what you put in your disaster supply kit. In other words, you don't need to go broke and go out and buy all this stuff in bulk, but start right now, piecemealing this together. Like go to the dollar stores, try to buy these inexpensive items to get you by for a period of at least 3 days with putting your disaster supply kit together. The last part of the make a plan, make a kit is stay connected and informed. Now, these are some types of organizations out there that provide a lot of outstanding material and information to be prepared. In the center of the screen is the New Jersey Office of Emergency Management. As I said, the state police coordinates emergency management in New Jersey, and we rely on a lot of information we get from them. You should be connected to the State Office of Emergency Management and the various social media outlets they have. I'll share those websites and links later on with this presentation, so you should copy those down, because it's very important to go onto those websites to get up-to-date information about disasters that are impacting the state of New Jersey. Also, working with our FEMA colleagues, you get a lot of information through FEMA from their ready.gov website. That's going to be posted later on as well. Trying to stay connected to the National Weather Service, specific to the area you're located in. Usually it's Philadelphia, Mount Holly, but in the northern area of our state, it's Upton, New York, that it's the weather service that we rely upon. So Philadelphia, Mount Holly, or Upton are the two that really work in coordination with the state of New Jersey. You can get updated information, radar images. They sometimes can show, or you can look at some hydrological data for flood gauges and when the rivers are going to crest or possibly flood. So if you live in an area of one of these rivers or creeks or streams, you could see through looking at the National Weather Service some of the data that talks about flood gauges and when rivers are prone to flooding from rainfall we may be having. So it's always good to stay connected to the National Weather Service. NOAA, you could go to the National Hurricane Center right now, and you could see storms that are brewing in the Caribbean or out in the Atlantic, and it sometimes provides a track of where it's going to be headed to, so you could be prepared for that as well. New Jersey 211 is the statewide information referral call system. You could call 211 and get connected to a call specialist to be connected to various health and human service resources that you may need to get in touch with. So please, you could go to nj211.org, and I'm going to give the websites later on as well. The Red Cross is one of our key partners in mass care. We work very closely with the Red Cross, but what the Red Cross is known for is really preparedness. So if you go onto the Red Cross website, again, you'll be connected to a lot of different planning templates to start putting together your plan, disaster supply kits, a lot of good resources to share, and I'll put that website later on and you can write down. Nixle is a form where you could sign on to Nixle and get notified of any type of alerts that come through in the area you're in. So I always recommend Nixle as a great tool to get those alerts on your cell phone or your computer, so you could see what's going on and understand if it's going to impact your area through Nixle. New Jersey 101.5, you could stay connected through NJ 101.5, their website, for getting updates, as well as the radio. Ready.gov is the FEMA website, and of course, News 12 New Jersey. These are just suggestions. There's many different areas out there where you could get connected and stay informed on what's going on throughout the state. Again, these are just suggestions that I'm trying to provide to you to make sure you're connected and informed during a disaster. Here are some of the websites I spoke about. The first one, ready.nj.gov. That's the State Office of Emergency Management website. You could go to that website and get connected to a number of different resources. They have training available. They have contacts for all the county offices of emergency management, as well as each county has an access and functional needs coordinator that you could reach out to as well. Ready.gov, that's the FEMA website. Again, you could go to that website and get connected to a lot of different resources. Like we talked about, putting together a plan. It gives a template where you could fill out that plan, simply fill in the blanks that's pertinent to your operation where you live. Redcross.org, that's another website that the Red Cross utilizes, that you can get access to a lot of resources as well to be prepared and put together a disaster supply plan, to put together a disaster supply kit, and get links to different ways to stay connected and informed during a disaster. Through social media, the State Office of Emergency Management, their Facebook page is Ready New Jersey. That's the Facebook page for the State Office of Emergency Management. If you want to get connected through the social media outlets, through Twitter, it's Ready NJ. So just by getting into those, the Twitter feed or the Facebook feed with the State Office of Emergency Management, you'll get the most recent updates on anything that's going on in the state relative to an emergency response. So these are just some ideas for you to stay connected. The National Weather Service, that's weather.gov, that you could go to and get connected to, whether it's the Philadelphia, Mount Holly area or Upton, New York, based on where you live in the state of New Jersey. The National Hurricane Center website is below weather.gov. That's the NOAA website, where you could actually go onto the National Hurricane Center right now, and you could see storms that are brewing out there and possible formation to a hurricane and the track where it's going to go. So you could start preparing as well for that. NJ211.org, as I mentioned, has a wealth of resources that you could turn to. Anything you want to find, you could put in a 25-mile radius, and you could get connected to those various resources for what you're looking to find out about. Or you could just simply call 211 and get connected with a call specialist, or you could start texting to 211 to get connected as well, that if that's something you'd want to prefer to do. Registerready.nj.gov is the Register Ready website that if you want to register through Register Ready, you can do that. If you need assistance through registering with Register Ready, you could just go to NJ211 or call 211, and the call specialist will be more than happy to guide you in how to register with Register Ready. So again, these are just some websites that are available. I intend to share this presentation with Ashley so she can share with the network of those that registered. And you could have all this information at your fingertips, as well as when you go to those websites, you could get connected to a lot of different resources to help you with your planning efforts, with your disaster supply kit efforts, and also staying connected and informed and what types of websites are out there to help you out with doing that. So in summary, I just want to say that be aware of the types of emergencies that could happen in your area. There's different areas in our state that are impacted by flooding, that are impacted by coastal flooding. We know we're coming up in the fall, winter months, the snow. Some of us have serious weather events here. We lose power. Are you prepared? And now's the time to think about that before the disaster hits. Take the time now to know your specific needs. What are the needs? What is my specific disability that I have to make sure I can be prepared if a disaster hits my area? Work with your families, your friends, the agencies that support you to build that support network. If you have a personal care assistant, speak to them. They might have indications where they can have someone else help you out if needed. So please try now in these blue sky days to build this plan, to put together your disaster supply kit, and to stay connected and to informed on different things that are out there. Be prepared, make a plan, have a kit, stay connected and informed, because preparedness really starts with you, and it's your paramount duty to be safe and make sure you're safe by having this ability to have this stuff in place if impacted by a disaster. So a lot of different information I shared with you today. I hope it was helpful. If you need to get a hold of me, that's my email address right there and my phone number. I always go out of my way for anyone that is engaged in mass care operations. I appreciate that Ashley and the ARC in New Jersey and the network wanted me to be a part of this training. So please, any questions at all, please give me a call. Please email me. I'll make sure that I share this presentation so you have it available. You could download it and you could see all the different websites that you could go on and start putting together your plan, putting together your disaster supply kit, and getting access to these different websites that are out there to help you to stay connected and informed. So from my perspective, from the Office of Emergency Management for our department, because we work so closely with the New Jersey State Police and many different partners, which are state agencies, county agencies, the nonprofits, voluntary agencies, the faith-based community organizations. There's so many people that help our department in making sure we can address mass care response and recovery operations if they are to occur. But it really starts with you. So we thank you so much for being a part of this webinar. We hope you take the time to be prepared on your own. And now is the time. Ashley, if there's any questions, I'm more than happy to answer any.
Okay, thank you so much, Joe. I am going to ask, again, are there any questions from the audience? If so, you can pop those in the chat box right now, and we'll take a few minutes to go over them while we're still here with Joe. None have come in so far throughout the presentation, but that doesn't mean that they won't. There's still time, guys. Are there questions, comments, anything that you'd like to share?
That's good. It means I answered all their questions.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, you shared a ton of resources, and you really emphasized the fact that we want to be prepared. We don't want to react to a disaster after it's already happened. The best thing that you can do is be prepared for something to happen where, a lot of us have lived through Superstorm Sandy and different hurricanes, maybe even a tornado. We want to make sure that we are prepared in advance. So I really appreciated some of the tips that you shared about doing that, making sure we have food, especially canned food in case you can't access your stove or, there's no power. And the infographic, I think, was really helpful in helping folks get together different items. So I'm going to ask Adam. Adam, you have your hand raised. I'm going to ask you to unmute so we can hear your question. Adam is a frequent attendee of our sessions, all of our virtual programming. What would you like to ask, Adam?
Why people sleeping in a house in flooding?
Can you say that again, Adam?
People need help in a house that flood. They're afraid of the dark.
Oh, some people are afraid of the dark.
Yes. For panicking.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's very important, Adam, and you bring a good point that really it's the homestead. The homestead is our sanctity. We want to be prepared and safe. And with recent disasters, we've been confronted with Ida being the last one, September. We had people that were left homeless because of the floods. And it's important to understand that when the floods hit, do you have the ability to go somewhere else if you're told to evacuate? And if you do, like I mentioned in my presentation, do you have the necessary supplies that you need to get by for a period of a couple days? So great point, Adam, in bringing that up.
Absolutely. Oh, and someone in the chat just shared a website. They said they like this site for lists, go bags, kits, and lots of other info on preparedness. Theprepared.com. I'm not sure if Joe, you're aware of that. I'm not familiar with that site.
That's one of the sites we use. I'll share some other sites that actually give a nice checklist where you can just check off when you get things piecemeal. Like I said, don't go broke buying all this stuff at once, but at least start preparing now to put together what you need specifically to help you out. So good point. We'll share all those resources.
Great. Thank you again for offering that up, Joe. That should be really helpful. And for those of you who are here today, we've got your email contact. So we will pass along the information that Joe is going to give to us shortly. Okay, Adam, you're bringing up another issue, folks who are unhoused or folks who are experiencing homelessness. May experience more severe consequences when there is a disaster. And I know there are organizations that work specifically with people who are experiencing homelessness to make sure that they have the resources available if something does happen. Joe, I don't know if you have anything you'd like to add to that, resources specific to assisting folks who are experiencing homelessness.
Yeah, we work closely with our department's Division of Family Development, as well as the county welfare agencies and the boards of social services in supporting the homeless shelters across the state and making sure their preparedness message is sound, that they can make sure they help out those that are homeless indeed, especially when we get into the colder months in the winter and Code Blue is activated. And normally NJ211 posts all the shelters for those during a Code Blue activation where people can go to stay warm during that time if they are indeed homeless.
Great, that is helpful. And it really sounds like NJ211 is kind of like a one-stop shop for these resources, which is really convenient. It's really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad we discussed that today. Anyone else have comments, questions that they'd like to share? If you type them in the chat, we should be able to see them. Aaron asked, what other links would you recommend, Joe?
Other than the ones I've provided, which will be shared with the attendees to this, I'll make sure I add additional ones, but those are the main links to help you out with putting together your own plan, your disaster supply kit, and just understanding the different resources to stay connected and informed during a disaster. Just the basics. We don't want to inundate you with a lot of different websites, but the core websites that I'll provide to Ashley that she'll share are the ones that'll definitely help you out with putting together your disaster supply kit and your disaster plan.
Perfect, thank you. So I will say last call for questions and comments in the chat. Adam, I appreciate your acknowledgement of the fact that, yeah, not everybody has a stable home environment. Not everybody has a place to go every night. And I appreciate that you're thinking of everybody who is impacted by disasters. So good on you, Adam.
Yeah, Adam brings up a good point. It really is, and I mentioned this in the beginning of the presentation. It's a whole community approach. We can't exclude people from disasters. We really have to engage the whole community to make sure those are taken care of, especially the most vulnerable populations in our state. So Adam keeps bringing out very important points that we focus on that to make sure we take care of all during a disaster response, and more importantly, recovery operations. So good point, Adam.
Absolutely. Inclusion, that's what we're about, right, guys? Okay, so I again want to thank you all for being here. I especially want to thank Joe for sharing his expertise and his resources with us. And again, we will be passing along some information from him shortly to everyone who's here today. I provided a link in the chat just now where you can register for our upcoming Stay Healthy at Home webinar series sessions, and also check out our archive sessions. So Aaron also just shared a weekly planner where there's information about our virtual programming. So again, there's a lot of ways to get involved. We appreciate you being here today, and especially Joe, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you all.
All right, everybody. I hope everyone has a wonderful afternoon. Stay safe, and we will see you hopefully again soon. Take care.